We have a bit of a cold war going on between Hamlet and Claudius. Okay, a really cold war. But things have begun to heat up in the last scene. For 2 months, Hamlet has been running around the castle acting like a crazy person. Nobody knows why, but the king is nervous enough about it to call in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, two of Hamlet's old friends. Well, acquaintances. The king asks them to draw him on to pleasures, and to gather so much as from occasion you may glean, whether aught to us unknown afflicts him thus. That opened lies within our remedy. Yeah, he wants them to spy on Hamlet for him, and these bozos are happy to do it. Both of them say yes in the most sucky-uppy way it can be said. They go off to find Hamlet, and then Polonius walks in with 2 pieces of good news. The ambassadors who were sent with the letter to Norway have returned, and he knows what's wrong with Hamlet. Claudius says, "Oh, speak of that do I long to hear. Give first admittance to the ambassadors, my news shall be the fruit to that great feast." Fruit is the dessert course. So first, the feast of the ambassadors report. Let's get this small little bit of political business out of the way first. You remember what this is about. It's about averting a war with Norway. It seems like the priorities are a bit wonky here, eh? The ambassadors report that the King of Norway did not know what Fortinbras was up to. And as soon as he found out, he reprimanded the young prince, who apologized so wonderfully that his delighted uncle upped his allowance and gave him permission to take the army he had assembled to go fight the Poles. Fortinbras also asked if maybe he would be allowed to go through Denmark on the way to the Polish territories. Claudius is delighted with these results. And now Polonius gets to present his second bit of news. He figures that he has the answer to the biggest question in the whole kingdom. This business is well ended, my liege and madam, to expostulate what majesty should be, what duty is, what day is day, night night, and time is time, or nothing but to waste night, day, and time. Therefore, since brevity is the soul of wit, and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes, I will be brief. Your noble son is mad. Mad call I it, for to define true madness, what is but to be nothing else but mad. But let that go. Oh, come on, dude, you're killing us with this torrent of spewage. The queen calls him out by saying, "Get to the point." Well, what she actually says is, "More matter, less art. Madam, I swear I use no art at all. That he is mad, 'tis true, 'tis true, 'tis pity, and pity, 'tis true. A foolish figure. But farewell it, for I will use no art. Mad let us grant him then, and now remains that we find out the cause of this effect, or rather say the cause of this defect, for this effect defective comes by cause. Thus it remains, and the remainder thus, perpend. I have a daughter, have while she is mine, who in her duty and obedience mark hath given me this, now gather and surmise." So then he reads some really personal love letters that Hamlet has sent to Ophelia. True to his character as an expert in everything, he even critiques Hamlet's diction in these love letters. "This in obedience hath my daughter shown me, and more above hath his solicitings, as they fell out of time, by means and place, all given to mine ear, and he, repulsed a short tale to make, fell into a sadness, then into a fast, thence into a watch, thence to a weakness, thence to a lightness, and by this declension into the madness wherein now he raves, and all we mourn for." What a pedant! Anyway, this is his theory. Hamlet is mad because Ophelia rejected him. But Claudius isn't so sure. We have to wonder if it's his guilty conscience that makes him think that Hamlet's madness might just come from another source. He asks Polonius, "How may we try it further?" To which Polonius replies, "You know sometimes he walks 4 hours together here in the lobby? At such a time I'll loose my daughter to him. Be you and I behind an arras then. Mark the encounter. If he love her not, and be not from his reason fallen thereon, let me be no assistant for a state, but keep a farm and carters." So the plan is these two are going to hide behind a curtain while they observe Hamlet talking to Ophelia. And Polonius says, "If I'm wrong, I should be a farmer and not work for you." But yes, you heard correctly. The loving father is going to use his daughter as bait in order to serve the king. It's pretty clear where his priorities lie. While they are winding up this conversation, they see Hamlet walk in. Polonius, the master of information extraction and management, is going to take this occasion to direct his prodigious powers of investigation at Hamlet to see what he can find out. "Do you know me, my lord?" "Excellent well. You are a fishmonger." A fishmonger is one who sells fish. Obviously, Polonius is not a fishmonger. He's the Lord Chamberlain. Obviously, Hamlet is insane. Or is he? Back in the day, a fishmonger was a slang term for pimp. Does that make any sense? Is Polonius using a woman as an object to fulfill his own purposes and desires? Oh yeah, Hamlet nailed it. A little later in the conversation, Hamlet says this: "For if the sun breed maggots in a dead dog, being God-kissing carrion, have you a daughter? I have, my lord. Let her not walk in the sun. Conception is a blessing, but not as your daughter may conceive. Friend, look to it. How say you that, still harping on my daughter? Yet he knew me not at first. He said I was a fishmonger. He is far gone, far gone. Is he though? Hamlet warns him to keep his daughter out of the sun. Remember the great chain of being? What is analogous to the sun? The king, right? Hamlet is warning Polonius to keep his daughter away from the king. Read that bit again, taking into account that some simple folk believed that maggots were bred by the sun in dead animals. Hamlet is using this notion to say that too close an association with the king will probably result in death. All of this goes way over Polonius's head because despite his belief to the contrary, he just isn't that smart. He says how pregnant sometimes his replies are. I will leave him and suddenly contrive the means of meeting between him and my daughter. So we know what Polonius is up to, and now at the risk of making a long video longer, I must speak to you about Shakespeare's use of verse and prose. In Shakespeare's plays, verse refers to lines of poetry that are written in iambic pentameter, a rhythmic pattern of 10 syllables per line with emphases on alternating syllables. Ba-dump, 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 ba-dump. And it's unrhymed. Shakespeare's verse is called blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter. Prose doesn't have any deliberate rhythm or meter. It's regular writing, in sentences rather than in lines. The quickest way to tell the difference is with your eyes. Here are a few lines from Polonius in verse, and here are a few lines in prose. Lines of verse start with capital letters. Shakespeare uses both verse and prose in his plays depending on the character and the situation. Verse, being more formal or elevated, is spoken by more elevated characters, or to express lofty ideas or sentiments. Prose is used in less formal circumstances. It is used by characters who are common, but also by characters who are filling the role of fool, or those who are drunk, or plotting, or mad. Why is Polonius speaking in prose in this scene when he speaks to Hamlet? Is it because he is being disingenuous? As Polonius leaves the stage, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern enter. This whole conversation between Hamlet and his friends is in prose. Ask yourself why this is. Hamlet greets them enthusiastically, and after some sexual humor common to baser younger men, Hamlet asks them why they have turned up all of a sudden. He's a little suspicious. Let me question you more in particular. What have you, my good friends, deserved at the hands of fortune that she sends you to prison hither? Prison, my lord? Denmark's a prison. Then is the world one, a goodly one, in which there are many confines, wards, and dungeons, Denmark being one of the worst. We think not so, my lord. Why then 'tis none to you, for there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. To me it is a prison. Why then your ambition makes it one. 'Tis too narrow for your mind. Oh God, I wish I could be bounded in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space, were it not that I have bad dreams. Which dreams indeed are ambition, for the very substance of the ambitious is merely the shadow of a dream. These two guys have figured out what is wrong with Hamlet, and they did it before they even got there. They think that his madness is a result of ambition. They think that Hamlet is upset because he didn't get to be king. He tells them that this isn't the reason. But these aren't the kind of friends that are interested in your opinion, even if it's about yourself and what you're feeling. Now all they need to do is convince Hamlet that their reason is the reason that he's been all out of sorts lately. Hamlet asks them again, why are they at Elsinore? They just keep on evading, but eventually Hamlet nails them down and they admit it. They were sent for by the king. And then Hamlet tells them why they were sent for. I have of late, but wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercises, and indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame, the earth, seems to me a sterile promontory. This most excellent canopy, the air, look you, this brave o'erhanging firmament, this majestical roof fretted with golden fire, why, it appears no other thing to me than a foul and pestilent congregation of vapors. What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving how express and admirable, in action how like an angel, in apprehension how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me. Whew, that is an incredible passage, but the beauty of it is lost on his auditors. Anyway, to cheer Hamlet up, they tell him of a group of players that has newly arrived in Elsinore. Hamlet's eager to see them. Before he can find them himself, Polonius shows up and, delighted that he has all the information, tells him that the players have arrived. "O Jephthah, judge of Israel, what a treasure hadst thou?" "What treasure had he, my lord?" "Why, one fair daughter, and no more, the which he loved passing well." "Still on my daughter." "Am I not in the right, old Jephthah?" "If you call me Jephthah, my lord, I have a daughter that I love passing well." "Nay, that follows not." Hamlet calls Polonius Jephthah. He's obviously insane. Or is he? As Hamlet says, Jephthah is a judge of Israel. You can find his story in chapters 11 and 12 of the book of Judges in the Bible. Before Jephthah goes into war against the Ammonites, he sort of makes a deal with God, a vow. "If you give me victory, I will sacrifice the first thing that comes out of my house when I return from the war." He totally kicked butt on the Ammonites, and as he rides up to the house, his only child, his daughter, walks out of the door. And Jephthah keeps his vow. Polonius is using Ophelia and sacrificing her to the service of the king. Jephthah and Polonius each have a daughter that they sacrificed for a stupid reason. Polonius doesn't get it. They finally all meet up with the players, and Hamlet requests a recitation. One of the actors recites a speech describing the death of the Trojan king Priam. At one point he describes Queen Hecuba's distress at the slaughter of her husband. "But if the gods themselves did see her then, when she saw Pyrrhus make malicious sport in mincing with his sword her husband's limbs, the instant burst of clamor that she made, unless things mortal moved them not at all, would have made milch the burning eyes of heaven and passion in the gods." Polonius says, "Look whether he has not turned his color and his tears in his eyes. Pray you no more." Yeah, the actor got so into the speech that he teared up at the distress of Hecuba. This is important. Hamlet asks Polonius to provide well for the actors, good food, good lodging, and then Polonius says, "My lord, I will use them according to their desert. That means I will treat them as they deserve to be treated." Hamlet says, "God's bodykins, man, much better. Use every man after his desert, and who shall scape whipping? Use them after your own honor and dignity. The less they deserve, the more merit is in your bounty." This is another wonderful quote to memorize, and this one is beautifully true as well. Everybody leaves, and Hamlet is left alone for another soliloquy. "Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I! Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could force his soul so to his own conceit, that from her working all his visage wand, tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, and with his whole function suiting with forms to his conceit, and all for nothing, for Hecuba." What prompts this soliloquy is the emotional recitation of the actor while he recites that speech about Hecuba. He was emotionally moved about a woman, if she ever actually existed, died many hundreds of years ago. He didn't know her, and yet he was so distressed by her distress. What's Hecuba to him or he to Hecuba that he should weep for her? What would he do had he the motive and the cue for passion that I have? He would drown the stage with tears and cleave the general ear with horrid speech, make mad the guilty and appall the free, confound the ignorant and amaze indeed the very faculties of eyes and ears. Yet I, a dull and muddy-mettled rascal, peak like Jonadreams, unpregnant of my cause, and can say nothing, no, not for a king, upon whose property and most dear life a damned defeat was made. Am I a coward? Who calls me villain, breaks my pate across, plucks off my beard and blows it in my face, tweaks me by the nose, gives me the lie in the throat, as deep as to the lungs? Who does me this? Ha! Hamlet compares the full passion of the actor to his own complete lack of passion. Hamlet has a lot to be passionate about. It's like someone is all up in his face, insulting him in the most brutal and obscene ways, and he stands there and does nothing. Swounds I should take it, for it cannot be but I am pigeon-livered, and lack gall to make oppression bitter, or ere this I should have fatted all the region's kites with this slave's offal. Bloody body villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain, oh vengeance! So he seems to be getting himself quite riled up, and says that I should have long ago fed all the predatory birds this guy's guts. But maybe he's working himself up into something here. Why, what an ass am I! This is most brave, that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell, must like a whore unpack my heart with words, and fall a-cursing like a very drab, a scullion. He can't figure it out. Claudius should be dead by now. He must be a coward. There's so much that should be motivating him, but he just talks in passionate soliloquies instead of getting down to revenge. Fie upon it, foe. About my brain, I have heard that guilty creatures sitting at a play have by the very cunning of the scene been struck soul to the soul that presently they have proclaimed their malefactions. For murder, though it have no tongue, will speak with most miraculous organ. I'll have these players play something like the murder of my father before mine uncle. I'll observe his looks. I'll tempt him to the quick. If he but blench, I know my course. Okay, now he has a plan. He'll have the actors perform a play in front of the king, in which someone will be murdered exactly like the ghost says the king was murdered. He's sure to be able to tell by the king's reaction to this murder scene if Claudius is actually guilty. The spirit I have seen may be the devil, and the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape, yea, and perhaps out of my weakness and my melancholy, as he is very potent with such spirits, abuses to damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing, wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. The ghost might be the devil trying to get him into his hands by making him murder an innocent man. Hamlet wants a little verification of the ghost's story before he acts upon it. This is Hamlet's flaw. He just can't act. Now he wants verification. He thinks too much. That's the end of Act 2. Next time we'll see what happens when Hamlet meets up with Ophelia, and what happens when Hamlet finds out he's being observed. Thank you, and we'll see you in Act 3.